All right, so maybe I will get going. So once again, good day to everyone and welcome to our webinar on unlocking the power through storytelling, hosted by Asia Talent Mobility Alliance, ATMA for short. So I'm Shu Min Yo. I'm the lead for education pillar in ATMA. So for those who may not be familiar with ATMA, ATMA is actually a collaborative network and is really dedicated to enhancing the talent mobility profession across the Asia region. So for Emma, we are actually built on four key pillars. There is sustainability, advocacy, education and development, events and networking. So our focus on event and networking is particular relevant to today's webinar because we actually aim to empower the talent mobility professional here in the APAC region with the skills and the knowledge needed to excel in their career and to promote the talent mobility best practices throughout Asia. So why did we choose, storytelling as the theme for today's session? It is because it is a powerful tool that can really transform the way, basically we communicate, we inspire, and we lead. And I know that apart from the talent mobility, practitioner here, we also have a lot of you from the different areas in the call. And today, as you are striving to gain recognition, to get a seat at the table, understand that sometimes it can be very challenging to achieve your desired outcome in the conversation because sometimes it could be due to cost or it could be due to other barrier. So if we are able to more effectively share our story, where we can really illustrate the whole tangible benefits and really that long-term value of the initiative that we are proposing or supporting, or if we could even connect more emotionally with our stakeholders in making the case for in making the case for investment to be more compelling, this could actually be very helpful. So in the next few minutes, we are going to explore how storytelling can basically harness and unlock this potential and for you to build stronger connection and also to create impactful narrative that can resonate with your diverse audience. So once again, today we are definitely thrilled to have Anjali Sharma here with us. I have a prepared script here because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything about Anjali.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's a very famous storytelling consultant. By now, if you have followed me on LinkedIn, she's like everywhere. She's also the founder as well as the managing director for Narrative, which is a multinational story practice company. She definitely has proven track records in helping corporations to harness the power of storytelling to transform organization performance and team dynamics. And in fact, Anjali has worked with numerous global brands, including Micron, Meta, LinkedIn, ByteDance, Microsoft, and Shell, in guiding us to really use and develop storytelling as a very vital interpersonal skills to enhance emotional intelligence, foster better collaboration, and also to improve communication within and between teams. So she's also the author to her new book. I have it here today. Very privileged to have it signed by Anjali, the strategic storytelling that was released on August 15th. And in just, I would say, a couple of months, in fact, in just a few months, it is, so popular. It has become a bestseller across multiple platforms. And it is also featured on the Next Big Idea Club as one of the must-read book. And is also curated by prominent figures like Adam Grant. So a little story. In fact, my journey with Anjali began several years back, probably back in 2018, where several of us needs to share a very impactful introduction of ourselves in 2 minutes to our CEO. And again, I must say that I have the privilege and opportunity to be under Anjali coaching, and that powerful introduction that she did together with me sticks with me throughout. And whenever I do public speaking, I'm still using it today. So
Mm.
for today's session, we have a great number of talent mobility and HR professional from Asia, Europe, and even from US who have signed up or maybe who are already dialing in their wee hours, who are participating live or they could be watching the recording later. But again, I can assure it's going to be a fun and interactive session. So once again, thank you so much, Anjali, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Just give me a minute. I'm going to share my slides and then we can get started. So thank you to all who have joined. I don't know what time it is for you, but I'm very pleased that you made time for this. So I just want to let you know that this session is not going to be me talk, you listen. We're going to have a lot of interaction as well, because storytelling is a doing thing. It is not a listen to me thing. If you want to really get better at storytelling, you've got to um, do it along with me. So my goal today is to help you do storytelling along with me. So straight off, we're going to get into a scenario. So everyone, the scenario I have for you is this. You are in a meeting with senior leaders of various corporations. You're asked to talk about talent mobility and the role it plays in organizations. I want you to use the chat box. Just use the chat box and tell me what are some of the things that you would put on your communication to communicate the importance of talent mobility. So there is no like right or wrong. I'm just interested in your opinion. So please use the chat box and tell me what pointers come to mind. Like what things come to your mind when you think about um, putting information about talent mobility. So one more time, I'd like you to participate in this session. It is not a session where you just can listen to me. You have to play along with me to get the best out of it. So kindly, please use the chat box and tell me if you had to speak to people and tell people, communicate the importance of talent mobility, what are some of the things that you would say? I look forward to your responses in the chat box. No right or wrong. I'm only interested in your point of view. People are the greatest assets of an organization. Okay, so you would say that in your thing. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Bindu. Supporting employees to achieve their career and professional goals. Okay, wonderful. Talent development, Phyllis says. Okay, what else? What else? There's close to 72 of you on the call. Three is not going to be enough. Strategic partner to the business, enabling deployment of employees to support business goals. Love it. Very, very good. Very nice, Hanan. So a part of rewarding. Okay, so keep putting in the information that comes to your mind. But what I want you to do is to recognize that whether it's a strategic approach or is it the importance of, deploying people into various geographies correctly, all of that you say in this chat box is correct. I cannot argue that. It is correct. But what I also want you to know is that the job of the communication is not just to be correct. That is a given. You have to be correct. What is even more important and your competitive edge is that the communication that is correct also has the ability to connect. Those are two very different things. So if I look at Schumann's definition over here, of the pointers that she would put here, talent mobility drives employee engagement and satisfaction as it provides opportunities for career development and personal growth. 100% correct. I can't argue that. However, it is also a communication that I will listen and agree with it, but I will not align with it. What that means is that I will say, yes, you're right, but then I will do nothing to support you in moving forward with this. Our challenge with communication, everyone, is not just about being correct. It is also about connecting to the communication. So when you influence people, the question is, how do you connect? And that is really the main thing that we are going to discover today. Okay, so with all that information and the spirit that the job of the communication is to connect, not just to be correct, let's move forward. I'm just going to quickly unshare and share again in case I'm going to show you a video next. In case the audio quality is not good, I'll unshare, and I think I have to tick a button about sound. So just tell me if you can't hear the video properly, okay? Then I'll unshare and I'll share again. Let's have a look. So if you were to ask anybody who works at Google, what do you do? Just like you were trying to tell me, what does talent mobility do, right? Like, what exactly does it do? Anybody who works at Google will say to you, we provide you the information you're looking for in the most accurate and efficient manner. So just like I asked you, what does talent mobility do? If you were to ask someone who works at Google, what do you do? They will say, we provide you the information you're looking for in the most accurate and efficient manner. this is a very correct statement made by some very smart people who sat with other very smart people in a very smart boardroom and came up with this line that is very thought out. It is thought out because when they say accurate, what they mean is that if you type in the Google search bar, Jaguar, you are the search engine is able to tell whether you're looking for car jaguar or animal jaguar. Based on your search history, the search engine should be able to look and say you're looking for animal jaguar or car jaguar, and based on that, prioritize the search. Now, that's what they mean when they say accurate. What they mean by efficiency is really, really fast. This is a correct statement, but also the statement that when people watch, they shrug their shoulders and go, yeah, whatever, I don't really care. So the point is, it is correct, but it does not connect. So in the year roughly around 2010 or so, Google decided that we say a lot of correct things, just like you say a lot of correct things to get influence people in terms of your talent mobility initiatives. We say a lot of correct things, but the question is, are they connecting? And if they're not connecting, then what is that one thing that bridges the gap between correct and connect? That is the year they went around and started looking for stories from the ground, on the ground, the stories that are on the ground, and started telling them because those stories were able to take the correct and make them connect. So I'll play the video next. And this is one of the stories that they used to bring connection to their correct statements. If you can't hear the video well, please let me know. The video is roughly about 3 minutes, 1 second long. It is in English, but I will also turn the subtitles on for you. The video is about a young boy called Saru. It's a famous, famous story. There is a movie on it. There's a documentary on it. There is a book on it. What I bring to you is a 3 minute, 1 second version. There is nothing fictional about this story. The characters are real. The incident is real. Everything is real. Okay, everybody. So Google is a very progressive brand. It understands. My next question to all of you here is who can tell me if I communicated to you that Google provides you the information you're looking for in the most accurate and efficient manner versus I show you this story. One, I say Google provides you the information you're looking for in the most accurate and efficient manner. Two, I show you this story. Which one has the ability to connect? Please use the chat box and tell me which one has the ability to connect. That's the question. Please use the chat box and I would love to know one or two. According to you, which one connects with you? 100%. What connects with you? So I'm about to move to the second story that you'll see on the screen whilst you're answering this question. Absolutely, Erpin. Absolutely, Judy. The story will connect with you. The biggest challenge as communicators that we have these days is that we have a strategy for everything, but we don't have a strategy for making a connection. I want to now pivot into a little bit more practical sort of space. So this is a commercial. Obviously, we are not making commercials. That's not the kind of storytelling. I mean, if we could, then we would. But I think largely we find ourselves in boardrooms and meetings trying to convince organizations to appoint us as their preferred relocation provider, or we're sitting in boardrooms with our bosses trying to convince them to change certain benefits for making people have better career prospects or do policy updates. So I want to take you, the next story that I want to take you into is a little bit more practical example. So as I was researching to get ready for this session, I also looked at the use of data to come up with insights to make talent mobility even a better sort of ecosystem of talent mobility, even better. Now, I thought I will make you experience something that actually is from a much more practical space. So what I want to do now is to share this story with you. This is a story about Andrew Paul, and this is about data and trust. Okay. After that, I will open a Mentimeter and I'd like you to answer one simple question for me in Mentimeter. We may skip Mentimeter and I may tell you that you can just add it in the chat box if we sort of, running behind time a little bit. I want you to answer one simple question. What is the point of the story? Okay. What is the point of the story? I don't want you to feel like you have to rely on videos to tell a story. I'm going to demonstrate to you the story. I will tell the story myself. Then I will also share the method behind the story. So let's get started. My job today is to convince my boss that collecting data is fabulous to draw insights. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we do not lose trust with people who matter to us whilst we're collecting the data, even if we are following every data privacy law and regulation. Even if we're following every data privacy law and regulation, we run the risk of breaking trust. I get up in front of my boss and I say, even if we run the risk, even if we have the slightest of doubt that we will break the trust between us and our customers, despite following every data privacy law and regulation by collecting their data, we should not collect their data. And here's why I say what I say. The year was 2002. A gentleman by the name of Andrew Paul was hired by Target retailer organization, and the job that Andrew Paul was given was to build a pregnancy prediction model. Essentially, what does a pregnancy prediction model do? A pregnancy prediction model can look at your purchase pattern. And after looking at your purchase pattern, it can tell a woman is in her second trimester or not. So if you buy a certain number of things, the model can actually say, you are in roughly in your second trimester. When Target has that information, Target wants to be able to send vouchers and promotional items, etc. for you. Andrew Paul, a very, very smart statistician and mathematician, gets on the job. And when he gets on the job, he builds the pregnancy prediction model. And what he realizes whilst building it is that even women don't realize that there is a purchase pattern that they follow in 9 months of the pregnancy journey. So there's a certain time you buy maternity clothes. There's a certain time you start buying the stroller, the diapers. There's a certain time you buy iron and folate, and there's a certain time you buy stretch marks creams. So there is a pattern. And if somebody goes and purchases X number of things, which are within that phase, then that woman is likely to be in her second trimester. They build the model does really, really, really well. Now, except for one day, what happens that in a store in Minnesota, a gentleman, middle-aged gentleman, walks in with a lot of vouchers in his hand and throws them on the face of the store manager and demands that they answer the question as to why is it that they are sending these vouchers to his daughter who is in high school. They're like, what are you doing? Are you trying to get my daughter pregnant? Is that why you are sending these vouchers to my daughter? Somehow the store manager calms him down. He goes back home that day, and then store manager gets back in touch with Andrew Paul and his team and say, how did we make this mistake? When they look at it, they discover that everything was right. They made no mistake, yet the outcome was incorrect. So the store manager says, I have no way to figure this out, how we made this mistake. So I'm going to call the gentleman and apologize and maybe do some service recovery. So the store manager calls the gentleman, who then from the other side says, oh, you're the store manager from Target. Thank you for calling. In fact, I was going to call you. In fact, the truth is that there have been activities in my house that I have not been aware of, and my daughter indeed is pregnant. Now, this story got published in New York Times, got captured by many other media platforms, and Target sales went down. Now, the pregnancy prediction model did its job so well that it knew before the father that the girl was pregnant. Yet, Target broke its trust with customers, which did not drive the outcome for which the pregnancy prediction model was designed. I want you to take a moment. We're going to skip the Menti in order to make sure that we save time. I want you to use the chat box and tell me, what do you think is the point of the story? What do you think is the point of the story? Use the chat box and tell me, what do you think is the point of the story? Use the chat box and tell me, what do you think is the point of the story? When you listen to the story, what is the point you get? Please use the chat box and answer the question. And after that, I want to be able to share with you the way I build my stories and how am I telling them. My spontaneity is an illusion. There's a real method I'm using, and I'm going to share that method with you. It is not about being correct, but about connecting with your customer. Confidentiality of data is critical. One can be correct, but may not drive the results you want. Absolutely. What else? Um, Global data privacy laws should be honored. Yes, of course. But in this case, Lata, you're absolutely right. They did honor those, and yet they found themselves in an issue. Timing of the story, okay. What else do you think is the point of the story? So the question is, when you listen to the story, what do you think I'm actually, trust is critical in connecting to your audience. So Joshua, I'm going to have fun with you a little bit. So you said trust is critical in connecting to your audience. Trust is critical in connect. Imagine now, I did not tell you the story. And I just said, what we have to understand in this data-led world is that trust is critical in connecting to your audience. Would any one of you want to listen to me? The answer is no. All of you will just shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, I know that already. I didn't come to this webinar to listen to that. And the problem we have is that that's how we communicate. It's very, very hard without story to be able to get people to understand. Now, yes, the point of the story, Joshua, is correct. The trust is critical in connecting to your audience, but you got to that point yourself. I did not tell you that point. When we are influencing our audience, we tell them a story and they own the point that I originally wanted to tell them, which they would normally disregard. But when I tell a story, they say, that's the point of this story. And you have achieved your desired outcome by getting them to believe that you need to do what you're asking them to do. Now, the next question is, how am I building these stories? How am I building, we're skipping the mentee. How am I building these stories? What's the method? The job of influencing everyone is this. We have to shift from just talking correct to connecting. We have to stop worrying about just getting people's attention and start building an affinity with them. We have to stop giving just knowledge to people and get them to understand something. We have to stop just making our communication relevant, but ensure that there is also resonance in it. And our job with the communication is not just to get an agreement, it is also to get an alignment. And when you are able to successfully influence someone with the story, you shift towards the right connection, affinity, understanding, resonance, alignment. And you step away from this common thing that we fall ourselves, become victims of. I said the correct thing. I got my audience attention. I gave them the knowledge. I made it relevant and I got their agreement. None of those drives action. What drives action is connection, affinity, understanding, resonance, and alignment. How am I building these stories? So I want you, as I go and share with you how am I building these stories, I want you to go back to that scenario. There's no need for you to answer anything. I want you to go back to the first scenario where I asked you, talent mobility program, how would you talk about it? And now think, if the pointers that you had put right at the beginning, will they be able to influence the audience, even though you were correct? Even though they will agree with you, even though you're giving them knowledge, even though you're making it relevant, even though you might get their attention, they will not be influenced. So how do we tell stories? Welcome everyone to the learning component. We are roughly about 25 minutes into my session. I have another 20 minutes to give you some very, very practical ways to be able to tell a story. And that's what I'm going to do. So if any one of you is a fan of writing, then this is the time for you to bring out your pen and paper and take notes. But I highly encourage you to be attentive in this webinar and participate using the chat box along with me. So how am I telling the story? The first thing I want you to learn is this, everyone. The very first thing I want you to learn is this. Every time you are communicating, you have to say, am I influencing or am I inspiring? Influence and inspire are two very different things. That is the first question you should ask yourself. I am going to meet the human resources and procurement department of corporation ABCD, and we'd like to become their preferred relocation partner for all their movements. Am I influencing or am I inspiring? How do you differentiate? When you influence someone, you are asking them to make a decision that affects a lot of people. When you're inspiring someone, usually you're asking people to make a decision That is their individual decision with absolutely no impact on anyone else. Give you an example. If I'm going to the HR and procurement team of a certain corporation and asking them to make us their preferred relocation partner, please use the chat box and tell me, is that something that affects many people, or is that something that affects one individual? Use the chat box and tell me, one, it affects many people. Two, it affects only the individual. Use the chat box, tell me if, yes, Subhash, very good. It affects many people. It is an influence environment. Now, if you have come up with a fabulous tool and you have bought a license for Microsoft Copilot in your organization, and you want each team member to become really, really good at using Copilot, and you want them to join a short training. You want team members to join a short training. Is that inspire or is that influence? Number one, it's inspire. Number two, it's influence. If you want team members to join the Microsoft Copilot training, number one, you say it's inspire message. Number two, it's influence message. Tell me in the chat box exactly. So influence, it is an inspire message because the individual has to decide whether they would want to go into this training or not, right? So usually inspiration is about, eat healthy, start running, upgrade yourself, join a learning program, join an alliance, join an association. These are individual decisions. They're inspirational communications. But when we are trying to get people to make a decision that affects many people, they are influence-based decisions, okay? Now, once you've got influence-based decision, what I want you to remember is TPRA as your one-line story. Then I will also teach you the full story, okay? When you open your communication, how do you say the very first line that makes sure that you land? In one line, how do you actually make sure you get the message across and people are interested in listening to you more? For influence, I want you to remember TPRA. For inspire, I want you to remember TPIA. In the interest of time, I'm going to do this really quickly for you. So T is for time, P is for point, R is for results, and A is for action. When you walk into the meeting room, please don't do the dusty old predictable. I'm here to talk about this. The objective of the meeting is that. The goal today is this. Cut all of that. You walk in and you say, over the next 15 minutes, give them the reassurance that you have this, take permission, make space for your speaking. Over the next 15 minutes, the point I want to make is, what is the point you want to make? The point I want to make is that relocation is not just about logistics, but it is about the psychological impact it has on individuals. And we can provide that to you. We can provide psychological comfort to the people who work in your organization, which will help you drive results. What are you talking about? Results in the next 15 minutes. The point I want to make is, which can drive results like this. The results it can drive is increased staff retention, higher performance, whatever that might be. What kind of results does it decide? And when I'm done with the presentation, the action I'd like you to take is this, right? So that's influence. So when you talk about influencing, you talk about, the results you want to drive, and what is the point of the presentation, and what kind of action you like your audience to take. But when you're talking about inspire situation, then you don't talk about results, because this is about individuals. Individuals don't care about organizational results. To be very honest, we say to them, our growth ambition is 30 billion euros. They're going to look at you and say, yeah, whatever, I don't really care, and I don't get paid enough to be worried about the growth ambition. What they care about is an identity that you provide, right? This will, if you come and join, so over the next 15 minutes, the point I want to make is that by joining this program, you increase your employability. You become someone who is relevant in the technology related field. You become someone who is able to manage your move swiftly, right? What do people want to become, right? Individuals. So when you go to organizations to set up contracts with them on relocation, whilst you're influencing the HR and procurement to adopt you as the relocation partner, when you're ever talking to individual people who are moving, you should be inspiring them by saying, look, we have this 15 minutes meeting today, and I wanted to start off by making a very simple point. By working with us, we can assure you we are not looking at your move as a logistical task. We are looking at it as a task that brings immense psychological comfort to you and your team. When I'm done with the presentation, what I'd like you to do is to sit down with me and give me all the details I need for the move to happen, right? So you are inspiring the individual to say that, you become someone who has the psychological comfort as the move is happening. So it's important for you to remember how to start the story right. When you do that, people start to listen to you because you've started in a way that starts to make the connection. When you talk about results, largely your results come from three areas. They come from time, efficiency. I is image, M is money. You either make money or you save money. So when you're influencing, you have to be able to tell people whether you're helping them save time, whether you're helping them build better reputation or image, or you're helping them save money, make money. Okay. So that is what happens with influence. When you're inspiring someone, then please don't give them goals, give them a new identity. I'll give you a very small example. Writing a book is a goal, but nobody writes a book because they like the goal. What people like is being an author. Author is the identity. Nobody who runs a marathon likes to run the marathon. I run many, and I know that that's for sure the truth. They run a marathon because they want to be called marathoners. People chase identities. So when you're talking to an individual, build an identity, don't give them goals. The goal is to move you comfortably. But what do they become when they move with you? What does it actually give them? What kind of an identity they adopt, right? Having been brought up in an army household, I know that my father, who moved every 2 years along with all of us, which is my mother and the two kids, every 2 years we moved. My father would always want to be someone who, despite being very time poor, wanted to know that his family is taken care of. And he wanted to come across as someone who the kids and the mother could feel, his wife could feel that they're taken care of. So for him, the identity was every move makes him a person that the family trusted him for the move to be comfortable despite his busyness, right? So you have to go into the psychological need of this and build an identity. Okay, everyone, quick question, because I'm going to keep asking you questions so that you're with me at all times. Talk to me, um, going and speaking to the procurement team of a large corporation is influence or inspire based decision you're asking them to make to adopt you as relocation partners. Please use the chat box and tell me, is it you're going to influence in that environment or you're going to inspire in that environment? Number one is influence. Number two is inspire. Going and speaking to a large corporation. Joshua, very good. Thank you. So yes, Subhash, yes. Bindu, yes, absolutely. You're influencing. If you're influencing, what are the three anchors that your story should convey? What are the three anchors that your story should convey? I told you that your story should actually be hooked on these three anchors. It's a proposition. Your story says that we will help you do this, this, and this. What are the three things I told that I said that exactly, Sonali. So it is about, am I making these procurement and HR people feel that we will save time for you? We will build a better reputation for you, or we will help you save money or make money, right? How do you do that with that story that you're about to tell? Okay, next question. If you're inspiring someone, what is the proposition you look for in the story? What do you want to build for people? What do you build for people when you're trying to inspire them? In your one-line opening story, exactly. Identity, Rajni, well done. You are building an identity. So you walk into the room and you say, over the next 15 minutes today, the point I want to make is this. It can drive results like this. And what I'd like from you at the end of the presentation is for us to do this. If you're inspiring someone over the next 10 minutes today, I want to make a very simple point that by being with us, you are going to come across as someone who is trusted by his family members to make this a really, really smooth and comfortable move. What I'd like you to do at the end of this communication is to give me all the information I need to make the move comfortable for you. Imagine the gravity of that, right? You're not starting with, okay, give me all the paperwork and I'll help you manage and process it. Imagine the gravity of telling someone you will be trusted by your family members despite your busyness, that you are going to make this move swift. You start like that. What's next? The next thing, you can't just sit and say, that's my start and then I'm done. No, you have to now build a story, right? Let me give you, you can't just say you can do like this and it's going to be enough. The first line builds good relevance for you, where people say, okay, this communication is relevant for me. Then comes the part where you have to build resonance. Very quickly together in the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to learn, how do I structure the story? When I structure the story like this, then it builds resonance. And when you have relevance from the first line and resonance from the story, they come together and they move people into the action. One more time. The first line is relevance. The story is resonance. Difference between relevance is there is something in it for you. Resonance is I'm reminded of my own experience. Resonance is I'm reminded of my own experience, when literally people go back to their own experiences as you're talking to them. So let's learn the tool for resonance, and then we are going to um, open it up for any Q&As we might have. Okay, everyone, ready? Okay. Most stories in a professional setting start off either with a calendar marker, time marker, or a globe marker. So calendar markers are 27th of August, 2019. Time markers are just the other day, last week, 2 weeks ago. Globe markers are in Singapore, Thailand, Australia, America, wherever. Okay, who can tell me, how did I start Andrew Poll's story? Can anyone tell me, how did I start Andrew Poll's story? What was the very first thing I said? Can you use the chat box and tell me? When I told you the story of Target, how did it begin? What was the very first thing I said? As I mentioned to you, this exactly, Zion. I started off by in the year 2002. Okay, so next question. Okay, there are 91 of you here on the call. If you don't participate in this call, then you're going to get very little out of it. So I want to recognize the people who are participating. I can tell you, you're already 10 steps ahead of those who are not. Okay, Google story. Google story, everybody. It starts off with in a very specific way. Can someone, it's a tough question, but can anyone remember how did it start? What was the very first line? Saru's story. What was the very first line in it? Can anyone remember that? It's a tough question. Okay, I'll wait for like 5 seconds and see if someone can answer. Hannah and Rajni, I'm sending you a big, like a hug for trying at least. It starts off with, it was 26 years ago, and I was just about to turn 5. Who can tell me it was 26 years ago? What is that? Is that a calendar marker, time marker, globe marker? It was 26 years ago. What is that? Is it a calendar marker, time? It's a calendar marker. See, when you listen to the story, you won't even realize it. But most stories told for a specific reason, a purpose, not for entertainment, which is what you and I do. It starts off like that. Okay. Why do we start it like that? Because it indicates to your audience that you're telling the truth without you having to say, I'm going to tell you a true story. So when you've built your first line and you've said, okay, we are here to, over the next 15 minutes, the point I want to make is that Urban International is your perfect partner for your employees' move, not just from a logistical point of view, but also from a psychological point of view. When you work with us, you are recognized as a company that cares for its employee. I have built an image proposition. And when I'm done with the presentation today, I'd like you to give me some more data to be able to generate an appropriate code for you today. Okay, let me elaborate the point I made, not just the logistical partner, but also the one who caters for the psychological needs. In the year 2012, right? You start with the story there. So story starts with like that. So what's the next thing? The next thing is stories activate your visualization. They make you see someplace. You go someplace in the story. Can anyone tell me in the target story, where did you go? I wanted you to go somewhere. Please use the chat box and tell me in the target story, where did you go with me? What did you visualize in your visualization? You visualized Minnesota. Okay, very good. You visualized home. Bindu, I love how you participating in this call. You're surely getting a lot out of here. The daughter's home, supermarket. Very good. Why did I do that? Because I'm not overdoing this. I'm not a performance art storyteller who's doing things like, and it was a beautiful day, the sun was coming out and the birds came out. None of that. But I took you to a shopping mall. I took you to a Target store. Maybe I took you some other place as well. But the reason why I have to do that very subtly is because there's a part in our brain over here that is forever looking for a visual to latch onto. And if I don't give you a visual, that same part of the brain gets very busy going, how long is this person going to talk? My emails are building up. So I have to make that part see something. You're in in that place with me and you're now engaged. Okay, let's look at the third element. Stories are about people. Stories are not about companies, countries, institutions, departments, and organizations. Narratives are about companies, countries, institutions, departments, and organizations, but stories are about people who work in them. Largely in oral story, we see two people. It's not a rule, it's a guideline. So, like for example, Andrew Pole's story. Who were the people in Andrew Pole's story, everyone? The target story. Who were the people in that? Can you use the chat box and tell me who were the people in Andrew Pole's story? Who were the people? Andrew Pole, the father, the daughter. Very good. Very good. In Google story, who were the people? Who were the people in Google story? Can anybody tell me that? Okay, Sonali, well done. Yeah, Rose, well done. Priyanka, nice. Yunsan, very good. The boy and his mom, very good. Bindu, one more time. Rajni, very nice. Saru and his family, very good. Okay, so let's keep moving. Stories have emotions. Now, this is one element that most professionals hate because they say, oh, I don't come to work to display emotions. You're 100% right. You don't come to work to display emotions, but you do come to work to describe an emotion. There's a fundamental difference between description and display of an emotion. Description is, what did you feel in that moment? What did you feel in that moment? You know why? Because when you say this happened, and whilst we were relocating, although it was the husband who had found the job, the wife was really very anxious. And the reason for that was that she was leaving her high flying career to be with her husband in the United States. Now, when you say that, a lot of people who listen go, that's exactly what happens with us. A lot of our senior people move and their wives have to move, who are perfectly capable, working and doing really well in these geographies, but their stress comes not from their own move. The husband's stress starts to come from the fact that their wives are actually going to have to go back to nothing. And that's going to cause a lot of stress at home. And of course, if there's stress at home, the kind of stress that it leads to at work, creates at work is also it's very, very evident, right? So when you talk about a certain emotion, you describe an emotion, because when you say that emotion, people say, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly the problem we have. We send all these people to Europe. We find them these jobs in Europe and US. They want to work for headquarters. We move them. 6 months later, oh, my wife and kids don't like it, so I want to come back. And all that effort of sending them actually is like, oh my God, we put so much effort. I wish we had looked at it as a family move and not as an individual move, and provided them the support that they needed to make that happen, right? Okay. Description of an emotion, everyone. So remember that, not display, but describe. Stories have a series of connected events. This happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. In Andrew Pole's story, I start with Andrew Pole's hiring, building the model working really well, then the story in Minnesota. Things are happening. This element is the element that differentiates a story from an example. An example could be, oh, the move of our senior partner ABC in the year 2021 is an example of a successful move at a very senior level, even when you have to leave a family behind. That's an example. I learn nothing from an example. Examples are great credibility building tools. People will turn around and say, okay, you've done some credible work, but it's not going to make the connection. The connection comes from series of events, things that are happening. And this, so what is the difference between knowledge and understanding? I say to you, Singapore is in Southeast Asia. That knowledge you can get by just listening to me. But if I say to you, what is it like to live in Singapore? You can't give an answer to that unless you have lived in Singapore. Understanding is experience based. Now, we are trying to convince and influence people to make decisions without them having experienced what is it like to work with us or work without us. So we want them to understand, but we give them knowledge which they don't understand with. So what is the option you have? The option you have is to simulate the experience for them. Stories are great experience simulators because they have series of connected events, and you actually experience the problem without having to really experience it, because stories are simulating that challenge for the company where 20% of global moves designed with this aspiration of success for local talent into global roles failed because the moves were designed keeping only the employee in mind, not the family in mind. And that's what led for this problem to become a really large issue. That is why our local talent, although has aspiration to work in the global teams, never really is successful for a long period of time. They can't sustain it because some family issue comes up and then they come back. Stories have something unexpected, something you did not expect to happen that happened, something that actually breaks the series of events. Who can tell me what was the part of the story? What was the part of the story in Andrew Pole's story that you thought was unexpected? It was not something you expected and you went, oh my God, really? That happened? The father didn't know. Very good. What else? What else, everybody? Which part of it you felt was unexpected? And you went like, oh, that's unexpected. I didn't know that. I would have not expected that. Anybody else other than Bindu? What was the part of that story that was unexpected? Please use the chat box. So you have to, if you participate and keep putting information in the chat box, everybody, then I keep moving forward, or else I also get stuck. Your answers are my fuel for movement. So you have to keep putting information. Exactly. Things, those are several different things that could be unexpected. What I want you to keep in mind is don't find yourself in a trap where you're looking for a very big unexpected. There are two types of stories: high frequency and low frequency. High frequency stories are stories that happen all the time, and those are the kind of stories you need to tell. Low frequency stories are the stories that are highly engaging, but happen every now and then. They make very good book material, movie material. They make very good documentaries, but they're not good for boardroom discussions. If you're going to talk about a story about someone who goes overseas and then has this really rare disease that the cure for which is not available in the country. Look at your data. If you think that's a rare occurrence, don't tell that story. If you think it happens all the time, then tell that story, because that's where people say it happens all the time. Yeah, we need to make that change because that drives. If you have a lot of stories that tell exactly the same thing, those are the stories that need to change, not every now and then. Every now and then sort of stuff makes it a very engaging story, but they're hopeless boardroom conversation creators. Finally, everyone, what is the point I'm trying to make? Why am I telling you this story? You have to start off from here. So my last question to you from today's webinar before I hand over back to the organizers is this. Talk to me. What is the key message behind Andrew Pole's story that I told you? What was the key message without which I could have even not built that story? What is the message that that story is trying to convey? Use the chat box and tell me. Trust. Very good, Mary. Priyanka, do not break trust with people. Even if you follow all data privacy laws and regulations, there's likelihood that you will break trust. Everyone, I hope you learned a thing or two. It's 5 minutes before we wrap up this session. I want to hand it back over to Shumin, who can choose to either wrap it up or allow you a few questions if you had any. Shumin, over to you.
Thank you so much. I hope that it's a very insightful session. This 1 hour passed so fast. I think maybe we can take one quick question. Anyone has any question for Anjali?
Shuman is very kindly plugging in my book here.
Yes, that's
So,
right.
yeah, so the book is in the market. It released on the 15th of August. Whatever I taught you today is also in a lot more detailed version in the book. But of course, it's an aggregation of my 10 years of work in corporate storytelling. That's what the book is. So all these stories that I have built and how I got to the right insight, what did I learn, all the mess ups that I had, and what did I learn from them, and then how did I apply them to the next ones. So there's a lot of all that information as well. Okay, so Shumin, I think we have a few
Yes, we
questions.
have a few questions. Yeah, maybe we can answer one of them.
Yeah, sure. So you want me to just take it, Shumin?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. How long is appropriate? How long is appropriate for a story in boardroom discussion? Tracy, thank you for this question. I intentionally make sure that I go only 60 minutes, 60 seconds with a story, like a minute. That's it. Um, because a minute is a very good time marker for holding senior people's attention. But what's even more important in that minute is that you show them that this is going to cost us efficiency, this is going to cost us reputation, or this is going to cost us money. Then that 1 minute becomes very important. So I would keep it to a minute or so. I'll answer another question as well. Does this storytelling effective me even is storytelling effective even if I'm an individual and not a part of an organization? When you try on your kids and husband today, it basis. So that really depends. If you're in an organization, I would apply this in almost every communication. Keep this in mind. If you're working in an organization, if your job is to make sure that you change mind, you either inspire someone or influence someone, then you have to tell a story. If the goal is just to provide information, there's no need for you to tell a story. Okay, for example, someone tells me, convert our orientation deck into a story. And I convert that. The section that I would never convert into a story is what are our leaves and benefits? Like, why do I need to inspire anyone to take leave? People take leave on their own. But of course, I need to inspire them to follow the values, be bought into the vision of the organization. So those are probably the things that I would say. Um, okay. How do you understand that listener is disengaging? Uh, Priyanka, is the listener disengaging? I have to be very, very honest with you. If you get your story right, what matters more is that are you feeling in the flow? Because if you are in the flow and you feel like you've practiced the story enough and it's landing for you when you feel it, that same thing rubs on your audience. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't care if nobody's showing me their face on a Zoom call because you know what? I know when I'm not falling in flow and the story's not making sense. So I think rather than worrying about others, you have to start worrying about how you are feeling. And two things that you would keep in mind whilst building that story is what's my start line? Is it relevant? Then with the story, am I reminding them of an experience that they've already had? That is resonance. Three things, remember? Am I feeling it? You feel it only when you have practiced it at least 5 or 6 times in the beginning. After that, it reduces to one time because you've figured out the flow. In the beginning, 5, 6 times of practice is really important. You will feel it that I'm doing this well. Even if I can't see anybody's face, I know I'm doing a good job with it. But in my content, I have made sure that the information is relevant to the people and it is reminding them of an experience that they've already had, which is resonance and relevance coming together. I'm going to take a pause here and hand it over back to Shumin.
Yeah, so thank you, Anjali. Time passed really fast. We are really at the top of our time. And again, thanks everyone today for all your active participation. So like Anjali mentioned, it just takes practice, practice, and practice. Maybe if you find some familiar names on the call, probably you can get the person as your buddy and you can start, practicing and engaging with one another. So once again, thanks everyone. And for those of you who are interested in getting, any of the book. In fact, it comes in, basically all version, be it is a hard copy book. It also comes in like the ebook. And I know, Angeli, you are also going to release a audiobook soon, in
Yeah.
December. Yeah.
So the ebook is already in place, the hard copy is already in
Mm,
place, the audiobook is releasing because it's done very
yes.
professionally. I mean, even our ebook is done very professionally. It's very
Mm,
engaging in experience. It's not just a PDF. You can go at any section, be reading, and you can link back to the context it's making at another chapter. So The book was published by the Hachette Book Group, which has made sure that every output about the book is done in a very professional manner. The book on Audible comes in December.
Yes, yeah. So for those who are, yeah, for those of you who are interested, you can copy down this link, or if not, after the session, we'll send you the link. So once again, thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the session, and see you again next time. And thanks, Anjali. Bye bye.
Thank you, and bye-bye, everybody.